can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Okay, now, there is a hell of a lot of, people will say conspiracy theories, but if you can say these are conspiracy theories, the people who are saying that are probably hoping you'll say that, because what they are doing is trying to absolutely dishonestly and corruptly poison what is going on in this world. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when you think about it, all this makes a hell of a lot of sense. So, to try and make sense of what I think is going on is Richard Wollstonecroft, film producer and editor and filmmaker extraordinaire, and we call him Dick from Muff. So, hello, Dick.
Hello, Sam. How are you, mate? How's it all going up there?
Good. Now, first of all, we gave a bit of a shout out or a call out. You wanted to run a night somewhere and you were after a venue. Someone has come to the party with the venue, have they not?
They have. The Black Sheep in Hawthorne, they are fans of the show. The Black Sheep in Hawthorne. They're going to be the venue for the Melbourne Underground Film Festival in December. It's running from December 8th to the 13th. So, we will be giving you more details here on the show, but they're fans of the show, and they contacted me last week after I mentioned it on the show. So it's nice to give them a shout-out, and that's where we'll be this year. So now,
I heard last year, this is how this has gone, this woke world, particularly in the States, has gone mad. I heard the folk on maybe MSNBC or CNN or one of the other dribbly little networks that no one listens to or watches except me every now and again to see what they are saying and how dishonest they are. They said calling something or someone a black sheep was racist. And then someone said, they pointed out that is actually not racism because every sheep in the world is white, and if you have a black sheep, you are the black sheep of the family. You are out of the ordinary. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got to do with colour. And exactly. If you associate colour with race, that's fair enough. But if you see a flock of 1,000 sheep and there's a black one in the middle of it, that is why they say you are the black sheep of the family, because you are out of kilter. Or not out of kilter, you are stand out. It's probably probably a backhanded compliment.
People have called me the black sheep of the family for years, so it's most appropriate.
Well, there we are, and you're as white as the driven stone, Dickie. Now, Dick.
That's true.
Now, there's so many... For a start, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the government were introducing... I'll tell you who put me onto this, Dr...
Robbie Peterson.
I was going to say Dickie Peterson. Dr. Robbie Peterson put me onto this. That there's a crew, a organisation getting together, whose name I can't think of, but it doesn't matter. And he said that the government were going to introduce a bill that restricted. It was a government disinformation and misinformation bill where you could be brought to sanction or cancelled off X or Facebook or all the other social media platforms if you disseminated misinformation. And of course the thing is, whose misinformation? Who is telling you that the misinformation or the disinformation you give is exactly that? And this is nothing more than a push by governments in the new world order to take over what you think, what you are controlled to say, and if you disagree you can be sanctioned.
You can be sent off to a clink, mate. And it's already happening in countries like the UK, as we've seen with those recent riots over there. And, I went to a demonstration on the weekend at one of the parks near Vic Market, and it was put on by the Libertarian Party in Melbourne. They were, doing a demonstration, obviously trying to bring awareness about the misinformation and disinformation bill, and they brought out a chainsaw at the end of the show and cut the bill in half, in a bit of a tribute to that guy Malay, that libertarian politician from Argentina. So, it's obviously, I think, isn't that one of the things people love about Western civilization and Western countries? That many people have fled their countries to live in our own, because we do have freedom of speech here, unlike say, China or unlike, say, Russia, that, we do have freedom of speech here, or we're supposed to anyway. And this is one of the core values of our countries and our civilization. And I think it's shocking that our government is bringing in this absurd totalitarianism. The importance of difference of opinion and contrary opinion has never been more under threat, and I think it is now. And they say they love diversity, but how about diversity of opinion?
So the blurb says that the Australian government could risk the Australian government could risk spending a year in jail if the in the cooperative and misinformation hearings before Parliament get up and are brought into law. And Robbie Peterson mentioned this about the World Health Organisation, and the Communications Minister, is this Michelle Rowlands, said that they were. That these people were, she didn't say this, but they are pulling the levers and the handles to make you say and think what they want you to do. We are being run. We have been in Victoria, and we are in this nation of ours by genuinely mediocre people who have genuine mediocre intelligence, and they are running a roughshod over the general population.
They are, Sam, and they don't like people like us pointing it out, you know what I mean? And they want to be able to stop it. Obviously, it might be applied to probably someone as famous as yourself, but, it will be applied to, people who most upset the government. You remember during the pandemic, the way they arrested that woman who was just suggesting people could protest? She was a pregnant woman up in the country who suggested people should maybe, protest the lockdowns, and she got arrested by the police. It's just the thin end of the wedge. Once they're able to do this, they can pretty much do anything.
Well,
they seem to want to.
This was the strong arm. This was the strong arm of the police state run by the Andrews government, who dishonestly and corruptly told us what to do, what not to do, where to go, how you could go about it. And since then, and since people have moved on and got awards, like the health minister who moved over to the CSIRO, can't even think of his name. Brett Sutton.
Brett Sutton.
He moved on after having told people to lock down, and at the behest of the Andrews government, we were the laughing stock of the world, and all that has since proven to be, whether you say this is misinformation or disinformation, this has proven to be absolute nonsense. The chapter and verse of what has gone on, and the big pharma input into this, and the fact that you can't sue them, and the fact that we were told to walk 6 feet apart, and if you were 7 feet apart it was all right, but if you sneezed and you were 6 feet apart, and the bullshit that we copped, because we're not law breakers, and we're not antisocial. We try and abide by the laws of the country, but in the end people say, well, enough's enough, and this is going on. They're going to the next level now.
Yeah, they are, because obviously they had something else planned. They probably have another pandemic planned. I mean, this is one of the great, scandals. This is the pandemic itself was most likely a bioweapon. You know what I mean? That was made. Dr. Fauci was experimenting with gain-of-function research. At the Wuhan lab, and then he becomes the spokesperson for the pandemic in America. It's just extraordinary. And people say there are no conspiracies. You just got to look to the way things are run. Conspiracy is essentially when 2 or 3 people get together and start planning something behind the scenes. It's so obvious the whole world is run by this kind of thinking that, obviously conspiracy theorists can get it wrong sometimes, sure. But I think speculating on what's really going on is essentially just intelligence in this day and age.
And one of the principals of the big pharma who made the vaccine, what were the two big companies that made Pfizer and Moderna, was it? The Pfizer bloke was caught with a lipstick camera in a bar or restaurant saying that they actually they concoct the diseases so they can find antidotes for them. So that when they're released onto the market, they have the antidote, and therefore they rake in billions and billions and trillions of dollars.
Exactly. They create the disease that they're then going to cure. It's called problem, reaction, solution. You know what I mean? Like the way that the globalists work. They come up with the problem. They create the problem, and then they come up with their solution. But the solution is not what really anyone wants, which is essentially more totalitarianism. And then, then they move on from there.
So people will listen to this and they'll say, well, that is absolute, that is so nonsensical. But the man himself, I think he got fired. The man himself said that that's what they do. So I don't know how you can have it from the horse's mouth and then just say it's a conspiracy theory. Now, speaking of that, Dick, now have a listen to this. This is whistleblower stuff, and no, they don't take kindly to whistleblowers. You might notice what's going on in the States. Trump is starting to surge in the polls because
he is.
Because you've got to listen. I watched Kamala Harris. I watched her doing an interview with 60 Minutes, and she was asked. About. I wrote this down. And she was asked by the interviewer, because she's trying to do hard-hitting interviews. The question was that it seems people like Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel, Netanyahu, is not listening to the Biden government. The question was, it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. And she said this: the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by, or as a result of many things, our advocacy in that region was responsible for. And the interviewer said, he didn't even have a follow-up question. He just said, he said, he went on to the next question. He said, could you answer this question then? So she is, and I see they're rolling out the greatest political scum. They're not scum, scum. They're rolling them all out now to try and bolster her up. The snake oil man that is Obama and Biden and Harris. They are the slime of the political class in America. The most fraudulent hoax of a man, Obama. He's out on the campaign trail. They've called in the heavy hitters. They're trying to dissociate themselves from.
She's not doing well. She's not doing well. I mean, she's and that 60 Minutes interview was a flop. And of course, Obama was rumored to be the power behind the throne of the Biden regime. Obviously, Biden hasn't been running it. I mean, we've all noticed his dementia. I mean, even the Democrats have noticed his dementia in the last 6 months. But I mean, he's had dementia for most of his time as president. So who's actually been running the country? People have often thought, well, they've probably set up a secret, government, so to speak, underground somewhere where Obama calls the shots with the various other people who are in the appointed cabinet position. So that's who's really running things.
No, now this is the latest, and this is from a whistleblower, but they don't take any notice of whistleblowers unless they whistleblow on the Republicans and not the Democrats. So
Exactly.
I have said, not that, and that's what I say, but I still don't believe Trump will get to the election. They will have a third attempt and succeed in killing him. But they are now. Have a listen to this. The hurricane. This is Helene. The hurricane is against everything that hurricanes operate. They are ocean storms, and they always lose power when they hit land. This one, however, went inland 300 miles plus, stayed strong in a mountainous region of 2,100 feet. The change of direction is completely man-manipulated, and FEMA that's the people who pretend they're trying to help people, is preventing people from trying to help. They are confiscating supplies from volunteers and blocking roads to go in and help these people. And the premise of saying that is that they are trying to create in the next 30 days, in all the red states where people would be voting for Trump in the swing states, they're trying to create a situation where people can't get to the polling booths because the power's out, they don't have any roads, they don't have any help, they don't have water, they don't have food, and therefore they'll stay home because they can't get out to vote. And the new hurricane, which is just coming on the back of Helene, which is called Milton, that is exactly the same. They say this is a Category 5 hurricane. They're seeding it or manipulating it or prolonging it or changing its direction. Changing its direction so that it renders the big, strong voting core and voting bloc that follow Trump and follow the Republicans, they're trying to render them useless, as in trying to render them so that they can't get out to vote because they have no roads, no life, no power, no nothing. And Elon Musk said that he had put in the Starlink, but they confiscated that and they said FEMA will distribute all that stuff. And they've had Black Hawk helicopters flying over the area, getting in the way of proper relief helicopters and relief planes dropping supplies. They say it is an absolute... they can't kill him. They will kill him in the end. How come no one has tried to have a shot? How come people haven't tried to kill Kamala Harris or Joe Biden? Just think about that. Why haven't they tried to kill those people? Because the establishment probably think they're going to win, and the great man Trump is a huge threat, and they'll either kill him or they'll stop people getting out to vote by manipulating bushfires they've started in all. They say they've started the bushfires, which are ravaging all the red areas in all the red states. When I say the red states,
they did this here in Australia just before the pandemic started. Remember how Australia burnt, in 2020, just before the pandemic hit? I mean, this is kind of geoengineering, mate. They're using it to, also, they're blaming it on climate change, of course. They say, oh, look at this is climate change. Actually, it's the fact that they are like cloud seeding, and they have the technology now. And it sounds preposterous to suggest this, of course, but it appears to be what is going on. And also, too, they're blocking the actual proper relief. And there are many citizens in America who have money and resources who want to help, and they're trying to get down to these disaster areas, and FEMA is blocking them. I mean, it appears that the American government itself, at least the coup government, the one that was installed, when Donald Trump did win the 2020 election, there was a coup essentially, and this false government has been installed, and that's who's been running America since 2020, and they are the enemy of the American people.
And they have
all the money,
the
money Americans sent overseas, to wars in Israel and to wars in Ukraine, and all the funding from FEMA. The budget's being used to house immigrants. And
$1 billion has gone to providing those people with free housing, free phones, free accommodation, free transport, and they deny that. There's that many whistleblowers coming out and saying that is absolutely the case, and there's no money left for the hurricane relief program because it's all gone on hunkering down or shoring up the 10 million illegal aliens that have come across the border.
I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean,
it is extraordinary.
The money, that money for FEMA is meant to be for American citizens, but the money has been used and wasted. Housing, I don't know how many, but millions of illegal immigrants who've been flooding in from the southern border. It's all organised, and they say conspiracy. I mean, there is an open conspiracy right there. I mean, someone like J.D. Vance has been very articulate in speaking out against this. I think he did very well in his debate. Trump is looking very strong, and there's no doubt that if the election was held fairly, he'd win at this stage, I'd say. Because, who the hell would vote for this Kamala? But as you say, they're resorting to desperate measures. But, that could be a sign they're losing, Sam. The very fact that they're trying these ridiculous and desperate things could be the fact that they might actually lose in November. We've just got to live in hope.
Well, and then I noticed a bloke that we sought counsel from in the infamous Nicky Winmar court case that we had to defend ourselves against. Justin Quill, he is a media lawyer. He just getting back to this bill that they're introducing about misinformation and disinformation, and you risk the penalty of going to jail. He said that This is extraordinary. He said this opens a Pandora's box, which means where does that start and end? So it's unworkable, and people are just trying to stop everything that you do by what they say is the narrative. And if you have a diverse opinion, you're out.
That's exactly it. And that was one of the most precious things about our country, is that we would have people who had different opinions, who would have left and right and this and that, anarchists and fascists and whatever. You could say whatever the hell you liked, essentially. You know what I mean, in our countries. But, they want to stop that. They want to be the government wants to be one arbiter of truth. And you just look at that. There's no time in history where that's happened, where it's been a good thing. You know what I mean? It's always ended in disaster, whether it be like a communist disaster or a kind of, fascist disaster. So there it is.
A friend of mine, well, not a friend of mine, I don't know the person, but he texted me and said he went to the Hawthorn Football Club best and fairest Peter Crimmins medal counting. And before the count started, a woman called Auntie, I don't think it was Auntie Joy, I don't know, it was Auntie someone. She got up and she started all this business about welcome and, you're on the land of the Hubangi tribe and all that, and started banging on about Trevor Barker, the great St Kilda player, and said it was great to be, he was at the club and all that. Got the wrong player at the wrong club. So she has done that many welcome to country. She doesn't know where she is, what she's doing, what's going on. It was just, he said it was the most embarrassing thing he's ever seen. People were cringing at it just because she started speaking highly of Trevor Barker, who's a very good man, but didn't play for the club that she was actually doing the welcome to country at.
Yeah, well, that's typical.
Yeah, it is typical.
This stuff infects everything, and I mean, it's utterly absurd. I mean, it's not just happening within, professional sports. It's happening all over. People are saying it. People say it at every film event I go to. They, it's on every website. When you press on, say, some website to do with the government, to do with the arts, like, oh, we want to thank this. It's all about us making us feel like foreigners in our own country, and which is utterly ridiculous. Because, as you say, most of our family, my family's been, both sides of my family have been living in Australia since the 1850s. So, it's like, it's piss off. We don't want to listen to it anymore. We don't want to put up with their bullshit. We want to just tell them to, F off.
Well, we don't want to tell them to F off, Dick. What we want to do is become all one country, one Australia. And in 1776, if that's when Cook or Governor Phillip, I don't know, it doesn't matter who, if that's when they sailed into town, sailed onto the land,
yes.
And this land is here because that happened, because of settlement. And this country is what it is. There was nothing here beforehand. And if we all enjoy this country, and if we couldn't embrace everyone on it and treat them as our brothers, everyone, but they keep dividing us, and the AFL are the worst at it. The AFL go out of their way to create a them and us division, and it is extraordinary. I don't know why we fly two flags on top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge or on top of the Westgate Bridge. I have no idea why we do that. If we could all just unite under one flag and be one country. I have many Aboriginal friends. Well, when I say many, what do you call many? I have several Aboriginal friends that I speak to on a reasonably regular basis. I played football with one for 6 years. Graham Polyfarmer, he was my inspiration. He didn't go on with any of this stuff. It's been hijacked. It's a hoax. And many of the people that I speak to that are Aboriginals, as I say, not many, but the people that I have, friends of mine who are Aboriginals, they just won't have a bar if they say they almost think it's as cringeworthy as we do, because it's just not necessary. And
I agree.
We don't want to tell people to F off, Dick. We want people to... I know what you meant. And I know, and I've said... when that man in Brisbane, before the game up there, came and said that it was before Cook, was honestly and truly how... If you want to have someone... If you want to have an AFL, if you want to have a competition, a sporting competition, the main sporting competition in this country, see if you can divide people by having clowns like that put on bearskin suits, paint their face black, light fires, and then tell you to your face that you're before Cook and you shouldn't be here. It is just so, it's not insulting, and it's just so, why the AFL allowed to go on, and they'll allow it to go on because it's gone too far now. They can't back down. They'll lose face. I had a woman went to a friend of mine, not a friend of mine, she wrote in, she said, I think I said this, went to a Pilates class, just a local suburban Pilates class, and they had to do Welcome to Country before they started. It's just amazing.
That's all I mean when I say. I just say we don't need this ceremony at every single event.
No.
If you go to an Aboriginal event, you might say, okay, that might be an appropriate place to do it. When you're actually going to participate in Aboriginal culture, you might want to do something like that. That's fine. You know what I mean? And we all have Aboriginal friends. Obviously, at the Melbourne Underground Film Festival, I've played film films from the Aboriginal community. I've played films from all the various, different kinds of ethnicities of people who live within Australia. It's nothing to do with racism. It's just so much, nonsense that we can take, and it's just reached the limit.
I couldn't agree more, Dickie. Now, what else? I heard a very good man, Mr. The restaurateur from South Melbourne. Isn't that played football for Footscray? I can't think of his name. Isn't that shocking? I can't think of his name. Who had his business closed down by Dan Andrews because they dared to trade in while COVID was on. What's his name? Oh,
what was his name?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Through there, calling her to look it up. She always knows everything.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, shit. She's not here. Anyhow, I heard him on Sky News. Did he give Dan Andrews a touch-up? And he is imploring people, if it gets put up, to deface it. And I'm saying, I don't know where the people who cut the Captain Cook statue down is on the foreshore out at Ormond Point in Melbourne. But if I don't think anything's happened to those people, I don't think they've even looked for them. So if someone could do that when that statue goes up of Dan Andrews and they could cut that down and no one look for them, I think this should be an ongoing protest for someone who is, honestly, his government drove the state into the ground. And how you could reward him with a statue is beyond me. That is...
people are going to have a lot of fun with the statue. People are going to be defacing it every week. You know what I mean? They're going to dress it up. They'll make him look like, the Joker or whatever. You know what I mean? So,
well, the Allen government might get the police state there and guard it with their lives. You never know. They might have put fence around it just so they can't do it.
Electric fence. Put an electric fence. That might be the only way to save it.
Anyhow, Dick, I wish I could think of that man's name. That is just ridiculous.
I saw a film this week that might be of interest to people. Yeah. I saw a film called Joker 2, Folie à Deux. Have you heard about this? It's a sequel. Did you ever see that film Joker recently?
Where did I read that? Did you send me that? What is it about?
Well, it's a sequel to the film that came out 5 years ago, and the original film was a kind of more realistic sort of portrait of the backstory of the Joker character. And he ended up murdering the Robert De Niro character, who we all know Robert De Niro is a kind of mad anti-Trumper. And at the end of the film, he blows his brains out live on television, and everybody loved that film. It was a kind of huge hit. It was considered a bit of a right-wing kind of film.
Yeah, well, I would go just to see Robert De Niro have his brains blown out just in parody.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it was, Sam. But the new film, obviously the people who run Hollywood didn't like the fact that everybody liked it. So they've produced this very kind of dark sequel with Lady Gaga singing all these terrible songs. And it's not a good thing, mate. I'm sorry to say it. I can't recommend it to the viewers of You Can't Be Serious. I'm a fan of some of these kinds of films if they're done well. But no, this one is, I think, a deliberate attack upon the first film. And I won't say what happens because I don't want to, spoil it for people. But, my advice would be just probably best to avoid it or wait till it's on television in 5 years' time. So.
Well, I feel very embarrassed. I can't think of that boy's name, that man's name that owned the restaurant in South Melbourne. That's a small example of senility. I know that man really well, and he was fantastic. Jesus, I can't think of it. Anyhow,
we're hamstrung, mate. You don't have Sue to look up things on the internet.
She's out. She's not here at the minute. So, Dickie, there we are. So you can give us news about the Black Sheep when that's up and running, and maybe you'll have a full house there for that, Dick.
I hope so. Yep, we'll be putting together the program in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll be announcing it in about a month. So,
all right. Well, just remember what we've said. Trump will probably be assassinated in the next month, and if he's not, they'll create 7 or 8 hurricanes that will render the voting bloc for the Trump election, render them useless because they won't be able to drive, get a car, have anything to eat. They'll be out of business. They won't have any power. They are manipulating it like you wouldn't believe. They are as corrupt as any. They're worse than Pol Pot and Idi Amin.
We are cursed to live in interesting times, mate, but there is the possibility we could win. There is that slight possibility that we could
There is no way they'll let him win. There is just no way. And you'll have that clown of a woman, that absolute airhead. I've never seen such an incompetent person, an unworthy person, man, woman, or convertible.
Yeah,
I've never
terrible.
seen how people could embrace that fool of a woman. It is extraordinary. And if you think that's sexist, she's taken over from a bigger dill, and that's Joe Biden. So what a couple to thrust onto the world stage as the greatest country in the world. Those two clowns running it. It is frightening.
But we've got to live in hope, Sam. You never
Righto,
know.
Dickie.
We might have a November miracle.
There we are, Dickie. All the best. That's it.
Good on you,
Take
Sam.
care. Bye-bye.
You too.